Hey, Garage Gym athletes, before we get started, I wanted to let you know we are upping our Instagram game so we can better educate the industry. The goal is to drown out the influencers in bro science that is social media. If you want to help, screenshot this podcast episode and tag us at Garage Gym Athlete and a friend in your Instagram stories. We'd love to connect, and we will even be sending some free merch to a select few who actually take us up on this 15-second task. So go get it done, and I look forward to connecting with you. All right, now to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
How's it going, man? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. The show must go on. That's
Just keep telling yourself you're great.
I'm a little bit under the weather, so if my voice is slightly different, I finally got me, and by it got me, I don't know what it is. Could be
Just it.
Yeah. I don't think it's the main virus everyone talks about these days. I think it's just a regular cold, but I almost never get these. And you know what? I'm just gonna be all like man flu about it and complain and whine
That's the way to go.
Until it's over, right?
That's how I treat everything. Man flu it.
Yeah. It's
Allergies,
the
man
worst
flu.
thing on the planet. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad, but being sick's never fun. It's making it hard to breathe. That's normally how I notice I'm getting sick, is like I will be working out and I'll be like, I feel like my oxygen intake is slightly different than normal. And that's when I know it's about to be bad. But that's it. I mean, that's updates for me too. No, I might have more on updates. What do you have? How's life for you?
Pretty good, yeah. Our kids is now in daycare, so we actually have, I was just telling you this before, but I have more time, but I still don't have enough time because that's just how things work. But it's great, and it's making our workouts a little bit like easier or better, because before we were both kind of like rushing, stagger, stopping, like whoever Liz would work out first. I would take the kid, I'd put him down for the nap. While he was sleeping, we would kind of like switch off. She would pick him up. I would go work out real quick, and I'd have to make sure I finished before she had to go to school. Now I have basically all the time afterwards. Usually I don't work out now until I drop him off, and then I could just do my workout, go through it. And it's not like I was taking a lot longer time to work out. I still only took an hour, but there was always that thought of like watching the clock and making sure I could finish. Not sure if I could. Except one day this week. So I'm on bare bones. It'll be my segue. Bare bones is kicking my ass right now, but in a good way, because I've been doing strength for so long, but the intensity, I'm just not quite used to the intensity, even with no gear. Just going from body weight to slinging a kettlebell around way too many times is a big change, but it's been great. There's a couple of us, Jason Wood and Tyler Robertson. We're both on it, or all three of us are on it. I know some other people are as well, and we've been just kind of sharing our workouts, sharing our stories. So it's always cool to hear and talk about. It is currently running through the one-man kettlebell program just for the first wave, and then after that, it'll go to the rest of the bare bones programming. But new track, starting off going well. Just that intensity is much more than that I've been doing for a while, just being on strength and stuff. And we had a 1 to 21 to 1 breathing ladder, and that alone breathing ladder took me an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
I make those breaths deliberate as hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great.
So if anyone missed the new cycle webinar, didn't make it deep enough in the webinar to hear that point. Yeah, there's a new track, the bare bones track. Joe is heading up.
Yeah. Just use kettlebells, bands, basically it.
Yeah, pretty awesome. What did I want to call that track?
I don't know. When I first came up with it, I was like, we need another track it's not no gear, but it's some gear. Less
gear track. That doesn't quite.
Less gear. Yeah, not no gear, but less gear.
Oh yeah, I wanted to call it the only what you can carry track.
Yeah, it was like way longer.
It didn't flow right off the tongue.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Maybe I'll pop in for some of that. I'm just on H2K right now, enjoying the H2K life. But as far as life and training goes, all good, man. All good. I need to get some of my run conditioning back. I've realized. So I've just been on this ridiculous journey. I think, everyone's heard it for a long time, but like I was hurt. I hurt my back, and then like every time I tried and come back, I would hurt it again. And so it was really just finding out what I could and couldn't do. And once I found out what I could do and got healthy again, I just kind of stuck to those things. And one thing I've been avoiding was running predominantly. It's because I kept thinking it was something else, but it always seemed to be running. It was always like, my back hurts after I run. And maybe I need to have my form looked at. Maybe I just need to run in different places. I don't know. Different shoes. I don't know. I have not actually figured that part out of it. Instead, I was just like, I just won't run. I have like 5 other like conditioning tools in my garage that I could use, whether that's bike or ski erg, rower, like whatever. I could do something else. And so I've just been doing those things. But it's just very true. You're only good at what you train for. And I did the EO3 5K like a week ago, and I was fine on the calisthenics, but I was not conditioned for that run. And so I was really just having to like push myself. But when you're in like zone 5 for every 800 meter run, you feel pretty out of shape. And I was like, man, really? The rower doesn't translate at all? No, it doesn't. Like maybe a little bit to where I'm like not dying, but my run has taken a significant backseat. So I need to get running again and figure out how to do that safely without getting hurt. Because that's like my only goal for the rest of the year. We got one more quarter here, 3 months left. Just don't get hurt. And then if I want to tackle something like crazy, like a new challenge or new goals, go after anything, I've made a deal with myself that I won't do any of that until next year. So 2023, I might commit to some new things, new goals, get back on the horse, but I'm just waiting. Like if you can prove to yourself that you can remain healthy for the remainder of the year and not get hurt, you can take on something new. That's me talking to myself.
Yeah, I think I've adopted sort of a new injury philosophy, policy, or whatever. Whenever I get injured, because injuries happen, but there's different types of like when you get hurt or sore or whatever. There could be smaller, like very short term ones or longer term ones. So whenever I get hurt, like that's what I did with this past back injury. I'll get hurt. It's like, okay, I'll rehab it. I'll get better. Take a couple of weeks off. Take a couple of weeks to just like see how it is, and then I'll get back to it and see if it flares back up again. And if it doesn't, if those couple weeks of just like sort of a dial back break was just like kind of clears it up and I can manage, then I'll press on. If it does come back, then I go, okay, I really need to step back, and then I'll step back for like an entire cycle. So I'll go from 2
You
to
don't
3
mean
weeks.
not training, right?
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Okay.
It's
Got it.
just I will. So like the example going back to my back thing, I will avoid like barbell squats, like any sort of like squats
Right.
and like
Yeah.
that sort of hip movement, so that I'll rehab it, and then if it comes back when I start to do those again, then I really backtrack it. But there's been times where my shoulder, I'll hurt I'll like I just have old shoulder injuries, and it'll hurt. Something will happen. I'm like, man, this just isn't right for like a week, and then I'll do mobility. I'll avoid certain things. I'll do some very like lighter band stuff, and like 2 or 3 weeks later it's fine, and it's just like, okay, I just kind of aggravated something, flared up, but it's cool. I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't need to completely dial things back. But if it comes to a point where after those couple of weeks of just dialing it back and prehabbing, it flares up again, that means I just really need to take a break, take a several months of focusing on fixing what the issue was and correcting it before I jump back into it. So that's sort of, I think, what I didn't even think about it till just now when you're talking about your own injury journey.
I think they call that wisdom, Joe. I think you're becoming
Very
more wisdomous.
Very wisdomous.
Well, that's awesome. So yeah, throwing around some challenges for next year. I'm just going to go ahead and throw out some ideas. So we're doing the 300 this year. Everyone's familiar. Some people are left. I don't know how many. I don't know how many people are still committed and doing it. I don't have an actual head count, but enough. But next year, I was thinking about, and I mentioned this to you, but instead of consistency-based challenge, having like a task-based. And so like 1,000,000 meters and 1,000,000 pounds. So 1,000,000 pounds of volume and 1,000,000 meters lifted. It's like the perfect concurrent training challenge. Though depending on, we'd have to get into like what counts as it for volume and what counts for meters, because if all you did was kettlebell swings and a bike, that you finish that challenge in like 3 months, and it wouldn't be that hard. So you gotta I gotta throw some parameters around it, but I'm thinking it through a little bit more. But yeah,
Plus, like poundage wise, might need to be equated across, related to body weight.
yeah, like, but I don't want to make it too complicated, right? So
Yeah,
there's always that element
not
of
too
it
much
too.
maths involved.
Well, I mean, because if originally I was like, well, if it's only like barbell stuff, that makes it really hard. If it's only like squat volume, deadlift volume, because I did that as a challenge once, lift 1,000,000 pounds with one man, one barbell. I think you can Google that article. I lifted 1,000,000 pounds. Here's what happened. I think is the title of the
Yeah.
article. And it's 1,000,000 pounds of volume, but I think it took me like 8.5 months of one man, one barbell volume to get to 1,000,000 pounds. And those were no small weights that were getting multiplied, so it wouldn't be possible is what I'm saying for most people. So that's why I was like, we'll throw the kettlebell in there. But if you do a 10 rep, 10-minute EMOM with a kettlebell at 70, you're already at like 7,000 pounds for the day. And to get to 7,000 pounds with a barbell is a lot harder with a back squat if your back squat's like 300 pounds or something like that. So a lot of little things to work out, but I'd love to hear some feedback from the community, what you guys think of the overall idea, because you could skip an entire month like Trampus and Joe, and then try and like squeeze it in at the end. That approach works as well, and I know a lot more people like that, so something we're thinking about.
Yeah, I think it's good because it's something that, like, the weekly parameters is definitely really, really hard. The consistency parameters, and like even the smallest thing like sickness or whatever can trip you up. But for your goal one, it's like you can skip out, but like you can't really procrastinate the whole time. You can't have those times where you have a little bit of wiggle to make up, but you still can't drop the bag. You can't do what I did for a couple of weeks, just do nothing. You still have to have that in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
And
you do like a marathon row twice a week, like yeah, when it
gross.
gets to December.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's it update wise for the community. Again, we are right at the start of a new cycle, relatively close to the start. So if anybody wanting to join, go to garageandathlete.com. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial. And for all of our athletes in there right now, you guys are doing awesome. But let's get into the study. Talking about eggs today. I love this one. I don't know what you thought about it. We'll get into it. But the title, this is done in 2021, is whole egg versus egg white ingestion during 12 weeks of resistance training in trained young males, a randomized controlled trial. So basically they had, I'm going to try and summarize without notes, see if I just have it good enough, because I feel like you know the study pretty well. They did 12 weeks of resistance training. They had one group who did 3 whole eggs. They'd eat the whole thing, and they do 12 weeks of resistance training. The other group did 12 weeks of resistance training, but with 6 egg whites, and they equated, I'm going to go for it, the isonitrogenous quantity of the eggs. So basically, I had not seen that word before, but they're basically trying to match the amount of nitrogen amongst the protein. So that's just like a major building block amongst amino acids. So if you hear in the bodybuilding world, you hear a lot about like nitrogen balance, because if you're in a positive nitrogen balance, that's where muscle growth typically happens. And so that is what they were looking at. They were trying to make sure that there was enough nitrogen in both groups for muscle growth to still happen. So we can stay away from words we can't pronounce, but still understand the why they're doing it. And so that's what they were trying to equate for. That way you couldn't just point at, oh, well, there's not a nitrogen balance here. Of course, this group did better or did worse or whatever. So anyway, they did both of those things. And the ultimate like takeaway, and then we can kind of dive into some of the things they did. And the secondary thing they were looking at, sorry, before I get into it, was the actual hormonal response, which I thought was pretty cool. It says post-exercise whole egg ingestion increases knee extension and hand grip strength, testosterone, and reduces body fat percentage compared with post-exercise egg white ingestion, despite no group difference in muscle mass in resistance training males. So I think that's just like a really cool takeaway, and we can dive in a little bit more. But in the health space, egg whites. Not as much now, but like especially when I was first getting started, egg whites were like always the thing. Like, oh yeah, stay away from the fat and just eat what has the protein and stuff. But I think we talked about this. I don't remember which podcast. It wasn't that long ago, but I was like, once you start in nature, when you start trying to remove the thing that like probably should be there, and you're just trying to get like a concentrated dose of it, like creatine supplementation in general, or like taking a singular vitamin as opposed to eating the entire apple, things don't work as well. It's almost like nature has this intent, and things should be consumed a certain way, or things should be done a certain way. And the second we try to manipulate that, it becomes less effective. And I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing here, when you're just trying to only get the protein from an egg white as opposed to consuming the whole thing. Ultimately, eggs beat out, no pun intended, eggs beat out egg whites. And so, eat the whole egg is going to be a big takeaway. But let's talk about it a little bit more. What do you think about this study?
I thought it was really cool because it's so specific. Like most of our studies, it'll be either macro based or time based or just like very general stuff. But I think it's really, and it's a study that I never knew I always wanted. Like because you always see because the egg white culture was so big for so long, and I think it has started to die down because of it matched up with the anti fat culture. But it was great because of that, and because they measured so many things between muscle mass, lean mass, body fat, anaerobic power, which was interesting, strength, all of the hormones, all of those things. So that was really, really cool. I like that. It was a very small study. I think there was only like 30 people or something.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to like if they did more to it, but how elaborate it was nice. Every day that they trained, they took a food journal. So like for 3 days concurrently with their training days or something like that, so that they made sure to that like they were told not to change their diets, and they tried to equate the calorie and macros between the groups as well. Train 3 times a week, non-linear periodization training, which is an interesting choice, but I guess kind of cool because they had light, moderate, and heavy days, and each of those days fell between certain rep ranges. So on the light day, they did like 12 to 15 reps, and then moderate had rep range and heavy had rep range. And then whenever they did their weight above the rep range, they would add 2.5% weight increase. So to me, that's kind of linear, but also not because I guess because of, it's God, what the heck's the word of it? It's undulating. It was more like undulating because they do light, medium, heavy each week, but they still each week are, once they progress to a certain amount, they're adding a certain amount of weight. So there was actual rhyme and reason to their program, which is kind of nice as well. And that it was 12 weeks long, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So programming wise and everything, that like it's pretty well formed study. So that's why there's a lot to like about it. Which is pretty cool. Non-consecutive training days, 36 training sessions. So very, very, very cool on that. Then, as you mentioned, they increase strength, reduce body fat, increase testosterone, but they also, like looking at the study, they lowered cortisol, which was pretty cool to see. And when you go to the charts, there was a significant. They all benefited from the training and from all that, but there was a when you look at the graph side by side, there was a significant difference, at least to me, like just using maybe the eyeballs, between cortisol and some of the other metrics. So pretty much everything improved and was better by just eating whole eggs versus egg whites. And I think it's definitely a nod to, like, you see all of these substitutes nowadays and these nutrition companies and these processed foods that are just like, hey, this has all of this has all this, have this instead of this. And it also reminded me of there's this company that makes a product called Just Eggs, but it's vegan eggs, so there's no eggs. It
So
doesn't
no
make
eggs.
no eggs. It doesn't make any sense. So, but it just makes me think of those, to where you see all these products now. It's like that they try to imitate something else, but even the real thing, taking half of it away, isn't as good as an actual imitation. So I don't even know what it would be like if they took imitation eggs. Like that would have been really cool if they had a third group for an imitation egg, whatever it is, made from soy or something, which would just probably be way worse. Um, So eat real food. Don't try to supplement as much. That's kind of like the main takeaway here is just trying to eat whole food, real food. And it's also funny because the egg white craze, I think, was all about lowering fat and losing weight and being lean. But the whole egg makes you has less body fat and more lean mass and stronger, lower cortisol, all these better things that you actually would want. So people are actually making themselves worse by having just egg whites, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, and I think that's what people need to look at is, I mean, you can go there. I don't know if we've covered it. I mean, we've covered so many studies. It's hard for me to remember like when we've covered something or I just read it. But there's a definite correlation with dietary fat intake and testosterone and hormones in general. Lower fat diets tend to be correlated with lower amounts of testosterone. In higher fat diets, monosaturated fats have higher testosterone levels. And, I'm sure there's some nuance to that in cases where it's not true or like whatever, but you need the fat. Big, like basic takeaway there. You don't want to be on these like no fat diets and you don't want to remove fat from something that's naturally occurring in the food itself, which would be an egg. Like an egg has the fat, it has the protein. And so I don't think you want to remove it. And I get in some cases, if you're trying to like consume a certain amount of calories or protein, if you're making like a 8 egg omelet and you're like, you know what, I only need 4 of these to have the yolk, and then 4 of them can not. That might make sense, but damn, why are you eating such a big omelet? You know? Um, so
That's
that,
the real question.
yeah, like you gotta ask yourself better questions as opposed to just trying to do the thing. So yeah, I think eat the entire egg. Know that there is a correlation between your hormones and dietary fat intake, and especially when it comes to testosterone. And I think um, my biggest takeaway, and I'm going to keep coming back to this because I just keep finding it to be true, is like we need to stop trying to game the system. And I get that everywhere and everything is about making your life easier. How can this be done for you? How can this be done faster? How can this be done easier? How can it be more simple? But I feel like in your life, or in fitness, let's just say you're gonna have to draw the line at some point of where it's just you have to decide that it's not going to be easy, and you just have to be okay with doing the hard thing, whatever the hard thing is. Because I feel like that's most of what the fitness industry is, especially in nutrition, is everyone's trying to cater. And when I say everyone, I mean other people producing content, coaches, influencers, whatever. They're trying to cater towards the lazy nature of human beings. And that's great for business. I get it. Like, if I can tell you it's done for you, it's easier, it's faster, I'm going to sell more things and you're going to be more on board with what I'm doing. I understand the marketing and the psychology behind it. We don't do that here. You are just going to have to decide that things are going to be harder, and you have to embrace that and you have to lean into that. And so don't throw your hands up and say, well, there's just so much, like, whatever, I have to do too much. Just be better. Be a better version of yourself. Try a little bit harder. And it's okay, because you're not going to come to this podcast and hear me say, hey guys, everything's okay. Just keep, give it that moderate effort for a long time. Like, no, try harder. You need to try harder. So if that means you need to eat the whole egg, things aren't going to be as easy. You can't buy a carton of egg beaters for your protein source. You need to actually scramble that shit and cook your eggs. Like, then just do it. It's not actually that difficult to cook an egg, but we act like it is. And so you're just going to have to embrace some of these things are going to be more difficult. You can't always take a supplement. You need to eat your vegetables. You need to eat your fruits. Like, pretty simple stuff here. Could we take a pill or powder? Sure. Is that going to be superior? Absolutely not. So just eat it. Eat whole foods. Get good sources of protein. And like Joe said, don't worry so much about supplementation. And I still consider when you're doing that with foods, that's still supplementation source when you're just trying to like extract the egg white protein and not eat the whole thing. You're basically going back to supplementing again. You're not getting the full effect of the food, how it was intended to be consumed.
It just seems like so much harder to try and skate around certain things, and probably it even costs more money. Like buying a carton of eggs versus a pre-separated jug or whatever of egg whites, just for this example, seems way harder and would cost more. And then on top of like other nutrients and things where you're probably doing research on whatever vegetable or fruit or something that you want to have a bunch of but don't want certain things of, versus just going and actually getting the real thing and eating it or making it. So it might even be easier if you do the wrong one. Just keep it simple. Yeah, so this is very cool because of how specific it was, and just for nutrition in general, about like try less.
But try harder.
Yeah.
Do less.
Do less. Try.
One of my favorite movie scenes of all time, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when he goes to surf.
Yeah.
That's do less. No,
Yeah.
well, you got to do more than that. That's
Yeah.
just my favorite one of all time. It applies to everything. So go watch that and use that as your motivation for eating eggs.
The less
go
you
eat your
do,
eggs.
the more you do.
Exactly. Can we roll that footage? No,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it. Eat your eggs. This is a really cool study. Dive into it more if you want to check it out, or if you want to like dive into nitrogen balance and fat and testosterone, whatever. We've given you some jumping off points that you can check out. But eat the eggs over the egg whites. And tell any gym bro who tells you the opposite that they're wrong based off of science. But we can move on to the workout. You want to brief the Meet Yourself Saturday for us?
Yeah, I got it. All right. So we have Stairway to Heaven, probably one of the hardest Meet Yourself Saturdays that we have ever. Out of all of them, to me, it's one of the ones that it'd probably put bottom 3 for want to do, especially if you want to stick to the parameters. But you will start with, it's basically just a F ton of box step ups. So it starts with 20 box step ups every minute on the minute for 20 minutes while wearing a 40-pound vest. If you're unable to keep the pace, start over with 2 reps less than your previous attempt until you can get the pace you can handle. So that means if you can't make it the full 20 minutes with those 20 box step ups every minute on the minute, that's 10 each side. Then you have to basically start the timer over, but do 2 less reps until until you find your spot. Once you complete that 20 minutes, rest for 3 minutes, and then you will go down to you will go down to a 20-pound vest, another 20 box step ups for 20 minutes every minute on the minute. So basically you're just doing the same thing with the 3-minute rest, but you're doing less weight. Rest again, another part, 20 minutes, but you will complete, the third part is you will complete 400 box step ups with a time cap of 200, or with a time cap of 20 minutes. So 400 box step ups total, time cap 20 minutes. And
is it 400 total, or is it a lot more than that?
It says complete 400 box step ups for time with.
Right there at the end. Yeah.
That's the third one. There are different scaling standards already for establishing a recruit for off the bat, but I won't read those out. So yeah, first, the main thing I always, and I brief this during workouts too, is make sure your box is not super high. Like pretty much everybody should be doing a 20-inch box unless you're like 6'3" or above, because just that's how the box step up, you need to be actually pulling yourself with your top leg and not pushing off from the bottom so much. And so that could also mean the shorter people just stack some plates if you're going below 20 inches. So that might help a little bit. And it'll like form wise also, so you're not like completely shifting your body to the side and up and down and stuff. So you're actually like staying with decent form throughout the whole way. Yeah. It's also supposed to be on. It wasn't noted in the workout, but alternating 8 legs each side. So you can't like keep your right foot on top of the box, step 10 times with your right foot, then switch to your left foot and step 10 times. So you have to alternate your legs each rep.
Yeah. So this is the workout I recommend if you are going to climb a mountain or you want to prepare for a Spartan Beast, get those hip flexors ready. I think this is one of the best training best workouts you can do, especially for anything like mountain climbing or whatever. And I don't mean like you're in a harness, that you just like if you're going on a long hike, like whatever, trying to peak something, but you're unable, like you live like I do, like in Texas, where you can't really go see or train with a lot of elevation. This would be a phenomenal workout to get your legs ready for something like that. And I've recommended it in a lot of training programs for athletes training for stuff like that with great success. So it's a really solid workout. It is incredibly high volume. I'll never forget. This came out 2019. I think I had tested it before it went live, and that is right around like my knee was a little like messed up, and I saw my physical therapist for it, and she's like, "What kind of volume are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I did like 1,600 box step ups yesterday." And she's like, "Seems like a lot." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Maybe too much." I was like, "I don't think it's too much." And so it's just, it was funny to see her face of like, she had
Come again? What?
never heard of that kind of thing before. And it just kind of puts our workouts in perspective sometimes of like, how hard they can really be. But this is Meet Yourself Saturday. This isn't regular programming. I don't have a lot of, this one is so built in. It's like the less I have to say about a workout, like in execution, means that it's already programmed to where you can't really like screw with it.
Yeah.
Like you either keep pace or you don't. You can go out hot. That's always my recommendation, just to kind of screw with people. Like go ahead and start with as many box step up as possible, and then fail and start over. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me, right? I'm not doing it with you. I'm doing it by myself in my garage, so I'll start wherever I want to start. But the first time I ever did it, I did do 24 inch box 20. Very, very brutal. That is a hard pace, very hard pace. So just keep that in mind, that it is very difficult to keep that pace. But I love this workout. I think I've been a little too frightened, I'm not gonna lie, but I've always wanted to do this workout like Murph style, like once a week for a year. Like I've had that thought so many times because I just think it would be crazy. Like I don't know, your legs would be like made of steel at the end of that year. Like they'd be untouchable, like your legs could handle basically anything. And I don't mean like barbell weight. I just mean with that level of muscular endurance, muscle battery, like your legs wouldn't get tired ever again. I don't think. I think that, because I know even to this day, like I don't even do Murph every week anymore. It's very hard for my legs to get sore doing anything. Like I do like 500 air squats right now, and my legs are just like, whatever, dude. We've seen way worse. And so for some reason, it like breaks something to where, you kind of go past this threshold. And I feel like if you were able to do this for a year, it would be insane. So I'm not ready to commit to that. Don't know if I really want to, but part of me wants to.
That'd be very, very hard. And I don't even know what it would do for hip flexor, low back wise, or anything, depending on how much you do it. You might have to do like,
It would only strengthen those things because I don't, I think the only thing that really screws you up, I think it's hard to get screwed up with volume alone and body weight. I know there's a vest involved here, but that's minimal for like your actual muscles. So I think it's pretty hard to get screwed up from volume alone when it comes to your body weight. I think where you get screwed up is load, like load on the spine. That's what jacks up lower backs and stuff. Landing in certain odd positions or whatever.
landing on your knee and stuff. So often that impact might.
Yeah, you have to like, that would be the only thing I think that could like screw it up, would be like the step down,
Step down onto like a gymnastic mat.
Yeah, but if you had that plan for it, you'd probably be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll commit to like a cycle. And then if that cycle goes well, I'll just push it out to a year. Because when I commit to something for a year, it's like it's happening. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it for a year, even if I'm broken. That's what happened in BCT, and I probably shouldn't have kept doing it. So anyway, it's a good one. Have fun with it. Push yourself. Get after it.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Cool. We'll get out of here. thanks for everybody who is following along with our training in the new cycle and just, sticking around, sticking with us. And then anybody who is newer, you want to check us out, go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a 14-day free trial if you want to get started. But that's it for this one, guys. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.
Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.